from one animal to another, they are there, but they have a very mild effects. They do not cause any such type of problems which they are occurring. They are not so fatal. But when they enter into human territory, now how they are entering? Because we have disturbed the natural habitat. We are into their territory, we are encroaching the territory, and therefore these type of viruses, they have quite a more number of chances that they come in contact with the humans, and they have a more alignment, and mutations may take place. And that is why similarly we also saw in the time of swine flu also, because it is there in the pigs, but when it enters into the human body, it becomes fatal. So such type of diseases, so what we mean to say is that there is a clear chance of having such type of zoonotic diseases in the times to come, because we have encroached their territories, we have made changes in the ecology, and because of this, the resilience of the livestocks which are there, because at many places the livestocks are also quite vulnerable to these types of the strains of the maybe viruses or bacteria. These types of things, they are very common in those areas. So because of this, there is easy onset of such type of diseases which may take place. And because of this thing happening, there are more chances. So COVID-19 is a classic example, which says that although you may say that it is a pandemic which has occurred, but it is also very understandable that it may fall under the category of the man-made biodisaster, because actually it is the result of the viruses which comes in contact with the humans because of the change in the territory which has occurred. So just pointing to the fact that all this happens because there is a disturbance happening here. All this happens because of the disturbances, the changes in the ecology, the changes, the balances of the nature, because nature always keeps itself its balance. It only happens when we encroach beyond a certain level. Another thing is that we must understand why it is important for us, because there is a nexus between human health and nature. A healthy nature will support healthy individuals, and this is established. Because you take the example of biodiversity. Why biodiversity is important for human health? Because if you preserve the biodiversity, if you have more varieties of trees, if you have more varieties of fruit plants, grains, they are helping you in the nutritive value. They add in the nutritive value, because that way your nutrition benefits are met by the diverse plants and a diverse variety of food that you are having. Along with this, it is also said, if the environment is polluted, in the COVID-19 case also, it is clearly established that the mortality rates were quite higher at those cities where the particulate matter was above the permissible limit, much above the permissible limit. So we have to agree to this point now, that we have to have clean air to protect ourselves, to protect our lungs, and to get rid and to save ourselves from these diseases which are coming. So there is a direct relationship, not only in terms of the, if you take the example of the food, of course, nutrition we get it, then the climate change also has an impact, because that leads to the changes in the nature, and they have an effect on the human health. Lot of acute effects, lot of chronic effects. We have seen how many people are dying because of air pollution worldwide. The number is countless. Every year, millions of children below the age of 5 die because of waterborne diseases that we know. There are a lot of type of cancers which are emanating because of the waste like mercury, which is there in the surroundings. So there is a clear nexus between human health and nature. And then we have to understand that this is an interconnected and interrelated world, and we will be as strong as our weakest link. Now, who can understand this better? That this is an interconnected and interrelated world. Take the problem of COVID, take the problem of air pollution, take the problem of COVID-19. It is very much clear that these type of events and these type of disasters do not have the boundary per se. Uh, is my voice echoing?
No, your voice is okay, but we can't see your screen.
Let me check. Can you see it now?
Now your voice is.
You can see your screen, but it's Subhash, can you please mute yourself?
Subhash ji,
Brother, it's fine from my end. I don't know.
Sneha, are you able to see?
You are able to see?
No, it's not even showing present now. Just check once. Maybe somebody else.
No, no, I have to do it now. Let me do it now.
Yeah.
Is it visible
Yes,
now?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Shall I make it full screen?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
this is fine?
This is fine.
Okay. Okay. And voice is also fine without echo.
Perfect.
Okay. So what I was referring to the point here that we are not living in isolation. We are interconnected. And because take the problem of air pollution or climate change, we cannot keep ourselves separate. And that we have clearly seen in the COVID times. So we have to pay attention to each and every unit of the ecosystems. We have to look at the each and every strongly. We have to believe that we have to look at the weakest link also.
Ma'am, we are not able to hear you now.
Is there any problem?
I couldn't hear you.
But
Now I can hear you.
no, but when I start the screen, okay, this is,
We can see it.
you can see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what lessons we have got from COVID-19 is affordable growth is sustainable growth. So the growth cannot be at the cost of the miseries of the poor, because we have seen a lot. They have been the pillars of our growth, but such type of growth which is not equitable, which does not cater to all the sections of the society, is not going to be sustainable in the long run. So we have to check, and that we have seen that affordable growth is only sustainable growth. What do we mean by this is that whenever we run any businesses, so the benefits of that should reach to all the sections of the society equally. And secondly, housing people and not diseases. Now there is a reality check. You have to see how we have made the houses. Look at the situation of Dharavi. There 8 or 9 lakhs people are living in a very small area. How can you expect social distancing to take place there? So we have to check the thermal properties, the ventilation, the space. That also needs to be checked, for which we never have paid attention in the past. And reality and urgency to provide to the poor and the disadvantaged. So that also we have to be quite aware of our actions, that how we are able, because in the COVID times it is very much clear that the poor are vulnerable. They are the most vulnerable, because first of all they live in the unhygienic conditions. You talk about one of the most important preventive measure is washing hands for 20 seconds. How do you expect these poor people who do not have water, the clean water for drinking purposes also? Go to the slums and there you will find the situation. So because of this, they are vulnerable. And secondly, they are vulnerable because they are losing jobs. They are daily earners. So we have to look in from that angle also. So are we able to provide them basic necessities? Are we able to provide them food, space, water? These are the main parameters. These are the main building blocks of a healthy society. So that also has to be checked. An advantage of breathing clean air, that is that we have seen for the various causes we have seen. Look at the mortality rates of different cities, and you will find that those areas which have unpolluted, where clear skies are there, the mortality rates are there quite low as compared to the places, which have a high degree of pollution emissions taking place. So already the fighting capacity is low in these areas. So what is the future? Future is you have to think out of the box. And most important lesson from the COVID we have learned is that now we have started thinking more innovatively. So the time has changed. Look at, if you are the business students, you must understand that every crisis has to be converted into an opportunity. So find ways to fight this problem, find ways how you can revive the economy, because you have to see there are thousands of migrants who have migrated to the rural areas. Now why not utilize this talent of theirs which they have in the urban areas? Can we revive the local economy? This will help in employment generation. They will make them self reliant. So these type of things, you have to think, act differently. And we have to also pay attention to the future of the climate change, which is quite inevitable, and which will find its way very soon in the all over the world. We can see this type of things happening, and this is a good opportunity because governments all over the world, they are thinking about how to rebuild the economies with the help of, which can sustain the local people also, which can utilize their talents, which can utilize their skills, and altogether there will be less of migrations taking place. So what happened earlier, when they were poor, they were desperate to go to the cities. They were desperate to go out of the cities to get proper employment, to get better standard of living for themselves. And now, when such type of crisis occurred, they were desperate to go back to their homes. So that explains that, if you are able to provide them good livelihood opportunities, ways of living, then their miseries also could be lessened by this act of God. Because that clearly explained the haphazard model of development that we have followed in the past. Because most of the opportunities are there in the urban areas. Look at the situation in the urban infrastructure is not able to support them. They are living in the filthy conditions. Such type of diseases, pandemics occur, then they have to run out from there. So it presents a classic example where we have got the unsustainable models of development. So there is a balancing required. We need to have a balance between enormous poverty, huge population at one end, and then you have the economic growth and stressed ecosystems, because businesses have they have pros and cons. So we have employment opportunities, we have innovations, we have profits, but along with that also comes the resource crisis. Along with that also comes the strain on the health of the people, the pollution episodes, the disasters which is taking place. So need to have a balance between the trade-offs that we have to see how we are able to manage. And the people who are there in the systems, who are the pioneers in the systems, they have to look how they can manage the economic growth and environmental integrity as a whole, and increase in wealth and social justice. So without society flourishing, no nation can flourish and no environment can flourish. So if the poor are there, they will continue to pollute, they will continue to burn the dirty fuels, they will continue to pollute in their own ways, because they have no choice. So unless and until we are able to address the needs of the people, that is why we say that we are as strong as our weakest link. So as and when we are able to satisfy the needs of the people, unless and until, we cannot have a holistic model of development in the country. So just ask yourself, are we ready to get back to this normal post-COVID, or there will be the new normal, as we are always talking about? So what is the new normal? Middle class environmentalism has to go. Poors, they are demanding, they are protesting, they are asking questions about the landfills, about the pollution, about the displacement. So there is no more not in my backyard. Nobody allows you to dispose your waste in their surroundings. So that much of awareness has come now. So future is not in our hands, but it is our minds. Think differently, think innovatively. That is the need of the hour. You have to see that what changes you can bring about, and that is why that is actually the new normal. So apart from the normal, what we are perceiving in the sense that the sanitizers are the new normal, the masks are the new normal, and abandoning of the social functions is the new normal. But along with that, we have to see that how we are able to adapt to the changing conditions, so that in future, we don't have such type of events, pandemics occurring in the years to come, because this is the thing which has happened after Second World War. So this is not a easy thing which has occurred, and it will take time, but we have to see, we have to adjust, and we have to find out some solutions to these issues. So that is all. And finally, I would like to say that the greatest threat to a planet is the belief that someone else will save it. So I think we all have to come forward, and we have to do our bit. We have to contribute. Then only we will be able to reboot our relationship with the nature.
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't know how it went, because there was a lot of echo of sound.
The others
No, ma'am,
were
it
trying
was
to present in between, and
Thank
But
you so
I
much.
was hearing my voice also along with it was echoing. I don't know.
Neha.
Uh, yeah. So now, can we have Sharif, please, present the same? Sharif,
I
sir, are you
hope you're
there?
able to present.
Hi, Sneha. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we can.
Yeah, so while I upload my presentation, I just request the participants to kind of mute themselves and also not press the share button or a present now button in between. So that might disrupt the presentation. And can you see the presentation now?
Yeah, we are able to see.
Yeah, we were able to see that.
Great, great. So, first of all, thank you, School of Business, Ambedkar University, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to interact with the participants and students on a topic which affects all living species. I would have loved to be there physically, present there and deliver the presentation. But right now, I don't know whether you are actually listening or working on an assignment simultaneously. So it's a challenge for me also to read faces. It is obvious that, and as ma'am also mentioned in her presentation, that these are really tough times. And when one says survival of the fittest or richest, it is applicable today. And believe me, it is going to happen in the days to come as well. So now the presentation, the format, I'll just run you through. There are three parts to the presentation that I'm going to present here. Part one looks into the space of climate change and how it impacts our lives, while part two looks into the contribution of transport sector in total emissions and sustainable solutions that we can adopt. And part three is basically a pep talk from me. We would be done with a lot of negative thoughts about in part one and two, but part three is basically a hopeful presentation that we might have in future. I'll just go to the slide. Here you can see on a picture on the right side, it's basically a picture image taken in California where wild forest fire is there and people are still playing. So one can actually replace any climate change related catastrophe and reaction to it from us humans would more or less be the same. We would still be enjoying our game. It is astounding and worrying how these disasters are normalized. Climate change is real. We know that, but we have largely been complacent about this fact. When ma'am also discussed in the kind of destruction that we have caused to the environment, So 50% of the total emissions on account of human activity during the entire history of human existence has been reported during the last 30 years only, which is to many of us during our lifetimes. Um, you know, and ma'am has also in her presentation, I would just briefly touch upon each of the aspects of how climate change affect us. It does not care about geographical boundaries, whether you live in India or in the US or any part of the world, in a small island to a big continent. It affects us all. If you think that one is safe because climate change would only lead to rise in sea level, then you're wrong. Uh, living in Delhi, you would say that okay, sea level rise does not affect you, but I'm sorry, it does, and it affects us, each one of us, in more than one ways. I'll just touch upon each of these aspects, and these are related to Indian experience mostly. Uh, First one is the heat-related miseries that climate change brings to us, largely associated with dehydration and UV exposure. Between 2010 and 18, over 6,000 heat wave-related deaths were reported in India alone. These are official numbers. And so the next is related to hunger. India, in terms of hunger rankings, has slipped from 95th rank in 2010 to 102nd in 2019. The situation is going to worsen as we move ahead in a business as usual scenario. I want to point out that we all talk about in world temperature curtailing it below 1.5 degrees centigrade of uh, the from the as compared to the industrial pre-industrial period. But despite all the initiatives, all the efforts that we are taking right now, we are for sure going to cross 2 degree by the end of the century, which would lead to 50% reduction in food grain production. So that is what the scenarios tell you about the food grain production. Coming to the wildfire, there were over 30,000 forest fires that were reported in India in 2019. And believe me, this also, when I was making this presentation, I also was kind of surprised. Well, such a by such huge number, and 95% of these fires, of the 30,000 forest fires, were on account of human activity. So that also tells you about how human engage with environment, and dangerously. Yeah. So cyclones, floods. Many of us are aware of the Amphan, but how many of us even remember the name of the extremely severe cyclone that struck Odisha last May? Uh, we human beings suffer from short-lived memory syndrome. There has been 32% increase in the number of cyclones hitting Indian coastline in past 5 years, and that is the data from the IMD. Um in terms of air pollution, we all know about it, the impact, the severe health impact that we endure. It has effects like lung cancer, premature deaths, respiratory illness, and a proportion of incidence of lung cancer for smokers and non-smokers increased from 9:1 in 1988 to 1:1 in 28. This does not in any way imply that smoking is good, but if you compare the numbers of non-smokers going to hospitals with lung cancer, that has been drastic. There has been a drastic increase. Marine pollution is one topic that not many people discuss. India dumped about 500,000 tons of plastic waste, and the image that you can see here is a very famous image of a seahorse carrying toothpick. That we sorry, uh, it's a earbird that we use on a daily basis, and it ends up in sea, and it's in the lives of sea creatures there. So that is another aspect that we need to think about while using plastic products. Rising sea level, as I mentioned earlier, at 2.1 degree centigrade, which we are for sure going to achieve or kind of get inflected. Sea level would rise by 250 feet, and the image shows, that most of Mumbai would disappear when that happens, and this could happen as early as 2050. So 30 years from now. Climate-related conflicts, competition for natural resources is a major cause of conflict. This has been happening in parts of Middle East, Syria, and Kenya as well, and these are all linked to climate change-related effects. Uh, so, so I'll just quickly move to the next slide, next part of the presentation, where I'll talk about uh, where does transport stand in the overall energy and emissions share. I don't want to throw a lot of numbers on you. I would just say that transport is the second largest contributor of emissions, and this is after industries and energy sector primarily, how we produce energy. As per estimates related to Indian international agencies, global transport emissions need to be reduced by to 2 to 3 gigatons CO2 per year by 2050 to meet the Paris Agreement. Uh, but it also indicates that these studies also indicate that we will fall short of what is needed to decarbonize the sector. Uh, and when you look at the sectoral break of emissions, majority of emissions are caused on account of light duty vehicles and heavy duty vehicles. These are trucks and small tempo trucks. There is in terms of fuel wise division, I would say that India's transport sector is largely dependent on diesel and petrol, and not much of a low carbon technology has had the opportunity to take that share, which would have been a good scenario for India. But if you look at diesel consumption, 70% of diesel that is consumed, and by MOPNG data, it says that we have consumed around anything between around 90 million tons of diesel last year, which is 1920. Of that, 70% has been consumed by the transport sector, and you can see the breakup in terms of which segments account for the share in diesel consumption. Of the petrol that we consume, almost all of it is consumed by the four-wheelers, the three-wheelers, and the two-wheelers that we have on our Indian roads. Talking about Indian roads, India has seen massive increase in the number of vehicles that it has on the roads. Between 2010 and 2017, the number of registered vehicles has increased from 120 million to 253 million in 2017. That was 3 years back. Between 2010 and 17, the CAGR growth of cars, of two-wheelers, and of goods vehicle increased at 10%, while that of buses registration increased by only 2.9%, which we have been, as transport researchers, we have been talking about a lot with the governments and agencies and authorities about the need to increase the public transportation. And ma'am, in her presentation in the last slide, had mentioned about had shared a picture saying that do we want to go to the new normal or the back to that what way we were. Definitely not, and therefore we need more of buses on road and public transport and road. So yeah, I'll go to the next slide. It basically talks about the kind of impact each of these modes of vehicles have on CO2 emissions. So if you look at the chart, you would see that rail is the most efficient of it all. Of course, cycling is not there because that's a zero emission vehicle. but if you look at the car segment, petrol and diesel is there on top, right? So we need to think on these factors before adopting a particular mode of transport. And this number is basically a study that we did for ADB in 2012, but it holds true at this time as well. I run a risk of oversimplifying the solutions for sustainable transport, but nonetheless I'll try it because it's important. You can just escalate and translate it to a national level, so that once you understand it, you will have a better picture. Imagine, look at it in a way that there is a need for a boy or a girl to meet each other, right? So there are several options to travel, but what are the sustainable modes? In transportation research, it is also known as ASIF framework, ASIF. Uh, A is for avoid, is basically you don't travel. That is a scenario where not many would agree to, but what we have been forced to do during this lockdown period, uh, or meet virtually also, or you go see each other on balcony. So that is one aspect there where you reduce or you avoid travel demand being generated. S is for shift. It is basically to draw, is basically to travel using efficient modes, from cars to public transport, or better still, cycles. I is for improve. It calls for improving efficiency of the transport system. Uh, you know, uh, Using engine, better engine performance vehicle, or using an electric vehicle instead of petrol and diesel vehicle. So these are the things that you can do. F is for finance. It calls for financing of efficient transportation system. It could be through taxation. It could be through subsidy, grants, etc. Basically, asking your parents to finance your sustainable mobility demand. You can look it into that way. Coming to the part three, I know I have talked a lot about the negative aspects of climate change, but I would also ask and kind of request everyone to kind of look into what individual levels you can do to contribute to the climate change initiatives that we have, in a way that you all become Greta Thunberg of India, and at this generation. Uh, so there are some book recommendations that I had, which would be give you a crystal clear picture of what the energy sector and emissions would look like, and what the Earth would look like if we proceed in on a BAU trajectory. As I mentioned in the earlier slides, the consequence of human activity is unimaginable. The sufferings would be unimaginable, and we have to start to go through those, and we have already started to go through those sufferings, right? As ma'am already in our first two slides mentioned. uh, Now we have talked about scarier consequences of twice as much war, and 50% reduction in agriculture yield. It is up to us to determine the climate and suffering that the next generation or next decade will hold. I draw a similar quote that ma'am has showed in a slide. Um, it says, and I am quite inspired by this quote, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. Nothing is already written in stone. It is us to write the future for generations to come. It is us who have brought ourselves to the point where we are right now, and it is entirely up to us to save the coming generations. And the best antidote for distress is action. You know, there is nothing better than acting, than giving lectures, as I am also kind of guilty of doing right now. Um, we know that responsibilities and impacts are distributed unequally, politically as well as individually. therefore, we need to carry on which individual and political carry on with individual and political engagements. We also know that the responsibilities are skewed more towards the political setup, which we should keep discussing, debating, and demanding. But we should also keep a tab on our own activities as well. So there are a list of questions that I have where you can take resolutions and don't wait for New Year's Eve to wait for undertake such resolutions. So these are: can we replace single-use plastic and plastic products with that of steel or glass or cloth? Can we bicycle instead of using cars for short trips for getting stuff from the market, nearby market, or walk? Can we use public transport instead of cars as much as possible? Can we practice composting at home? Can we save or reuse water? Can we avoid wasting food that we eat and that we kind of waste in our daily lives? Can we all do that? Maybe some of these activities we can adopt to make a change in the coming days. If one does not understand climate change, there is a need to understand it right now. And if one does not, and if one understands it, then it is definitely time to act. With these words, I end my presentation and would love to take questions. Thank you all for hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharif, for giving us so much insight about how one person can actually make a change, and we don't need to wait for everyone or a community or a nation to do that. So thank you so very much for that. And yes, I can see we have a lot of questions for our eminent speakers. So I have randomly picked up a few questions. I would like Diksha ma'am and Sharif sir to just take it up. So first question we have is from Saurav Hazra. He asked does a climate change affect viruses?
Sorry, I missed your last word.
Okay, so Saurav Hazra has asked a question: does climate change affect virus or all the viruses which are there?
Yeah. So Diksha ma'am, if I can take the question. Yeah, so it definitely does. And I'll give the answer through an example. There is a particular species that is found in mid China region, in Mongolia region. I am forgetting the name of the species, where 3/4 of that species kind of died because there was a sudden increase in temperature at a particular day, and that was triggered basically through their bacteria being released through the glands. So that triggered a mass death in that region. Right now, we don't know much about the bacteria, segment. About 99.9% of bacteria that exist on Earth, human beings are not aware of. So, what would trigger what? We don't know, and then definitely climate change does trigger that action from the bacteria. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. So we have a second question from Garima Singh. She asked that, what are your thoughts on the incident that happened with the pregnant elephant in Kerala? We need to admit that we still have a long way to go to protect the biodiversity.
Yeah, definitely. We still have a long way to protect the biodiversity, because many times we are only bothered about the tangible benefits that we get from nature. But as far as this incident or vulnerable animals, particularly wild animals, you must be surprised to know that during the lockdown, we are thinking so much about environmental benefits. But this is also another side of the story, that lot of poaching has increased during this lockdown time. Because, so we have to be sensitized and we have to think it as a whole, And we have to go a long way for biodiversity preservation, because in spite of the steps we take, unless and until we are able to sensitize the people and to see that they are the link in the ecosystems and for own are very good, we cannot protect the species.
That's right, ma'am. So we have another question from Dr. Tanya Nautiyal. She asked that how climate change is responsible for damaging the soil quality. Sharif, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I am not an expert in that field. But definitely the answer would be yes. Climate change does affect the productivity of the soil, as in case of Amphan and previous super cyclones in the Bay of Bengal region, where a lot of salty water came onto the lands of where agriculture was practiced, which made practically impossible for farmers to grow their food for our consumption. So that has been happening, and there are innumerous linkages between climate change and all the aspects that you see in our lives. So yeah.
Yeah, physico-chemical characteristics of the soil get changed because of climate change. Because ma'am, it is related to other phenomena taking place, whether it is soil erosion acceleration or it is increased incidence of sediments cover that we find in our rivers, that increases. So definitely, why to forget the soil microorganisms which are there, which improve the fertility of the soil. So in a way, all these actions are linked, and it has a impact on the quality of the soil as well.
That's right. Okay, so we have another. So I think we'll take two more questions out here. So we have another question from Mehzbeen Rahman, and they asked that can you suggest some plants, some trees that could be planted and which has the ability to produce most oxygen, because we all know what's the situation we are in. So any suggestions about the trees, the plants we can have across inside our house, right outside our house?
Ma'am, please may I answer the question?
I would request you to please be on mute.
He wants to answer, I think.
But
yeah, I want to answer.
Okay.
Actually, ma'am, I would suggest that we should plant neem trees and the trees which earlier were planted by government in 1960s to 1970s on the side of roads. So like neem and avla, they are mainly used for the oxygen production, and neem has many that beneficial properties, which also host a number of bacteria near that, and it also host number of nest on it. So I would suggest that neem trees and similar trees are beneficial for this purpose.
Yeah, thank you so much for your answer. So do we have something to add from our speakers? Ma'am, Sharif, do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, so there are a lot of plant species that you can grow at home indoors as well, and which are known to give oxygen in a larger quantity, and are helpful during times like winter, where you experience in India particularly a huge air pollution problem. So these could be areca palm and snake plants. These are some of the plants that we also grow at our homes. So these are the ones. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, we have another question from Nidhi Rana, and she asked that environmental degradations, pollution, climate changes, and pandemics, are all these events interrelated?
That was the crux of our presentation, that yes, they all are interrelated, because you cannot have anything in isolation. Every action has a reaction. Whatever you do, that comes out with something negative or positive on the environment. So the way you deal with the environment, with your surroundings, with your resources, definitely has some of the impact. And yes, these are related with each other.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. There's another question from our participant, Anushka Sharma, and she asked that what can we do at an individual level, something that actually can make a difference? Just avoiding a single plastic doesn't seem to have a big impact on our environment now. So, yeah, so Sharif, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, of course. As as I said during the last part of my presentation, I kind of stand by that quote, and I would urge everyone to listen to it very carefully. I would repeat it just to answer that question. Is that I am the only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. So, I would urge you guys and people who are listening this, that don't think about whether X or Y or the government is not doing. At individual level, what is it that you are contributing? And do it very sincerely. So I have given a lot of options to the people. You can choose all of them. I would urge all of you to choose all of it. But at least if you're doing something, then it will help the nature and the future generations to come. You can replace single-use plastic, as I said. You can do composting. Wet waste, convert it into fertilizer. That way, you can bicycle. You can use public transport. You can save water at whatever level you can, and stop wasting food. Just take this as a resolution, and then you can when everyone does that, there will be a difference. Thank you.
And definitely, you are the change makers. You are the knowledge disseminators. So today, when from Sir's words, you have taken something, try to spread that knowledge. Try to make people aware of those things, because we need a knowledge-driven society. Because you know something, you practice it, and you don't let others know about it. That will also not yield much return. So change the society. You are the change makers. You are the coming generations. So do that part.
Well said, ma'am. Well said, Sharif. I guess we'll just take one last question. That is from Sayak Day, and he needs to. He's questioning us, saying that do we need to change the policies of carrying capacity related to tourism industry in the upcoming days when everything will come alive?
Diksha ma'am, do you want to go ahead?
Should I?
That?
Yeah, I didn't hear that question properly.
Okay, I'll just repeat it for you, ma'am. He needs to know that do we need to change the policies of carrying capacity related to tourism industry in the upcoming days when everything will come alive?
Yeah, definitely. Lot of risk analysis, lot of policy changes, lot of strategies in not only tourism but all other sectors. It will come because two things have happened. Firstly, we are becoming more vulnerable, and secondly, people are more aware. So in these situations, definitely a policy shift is required, and it will definitely take place because we are more aware about the waste problem also, about hygiene also, about sanitation also, about social distancing also. So these things definitely will change.
Yes, ma'am, that's for sure. This will be changing for sure. I think, Kritika, we are good with the questions.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you, Diksha ma'am. Thank you, Sharif. I, on behalf of SPPP SE fraternity, including our faculty, our staff, our students, and of course, our guest audience for today who are here, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to you, Dr. Diksha Dave, and of course to you, Sharif, for an enlightening and interesting webinar on time to reboot humanity's relationship with nature. We appreciate you both in giving us insights about the area, which is so important for everyone, especially looking at the current scenario we all are in. Your advice, your suggestions will definitely be taken back. We will try to implement the same in our day-to-day lives. Dr. Diksha and Mr. Kamar, we owe you a special vote of thanks for taking out time for our schedule and for taking out time from your schedule and being here and delivering us such a wonderful session. We really appreciate that. We look forward to hearing back from you again in the near future. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sharif, once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thanks. Bye-bye. One last thing for our participants, we'll be uploading one feedback form here on the link. I may request you all to please fill in the same and give us back as soon as possible. Your certificates will be given back to you on the same email IDs you'll be filling it on. Thank you so much. Ritika, are we sharing the link here for the form?
Yeah, we have shared it. I'll put it again. It keeps moving up. So we will share the link via an email also.
Yeah, and I think Diksha ma'am just said that if any of the participants have any queries related to the topic today, they can reach out to her directly on her email. DikshaDave@ignu.ac.in. I may request everyone to please fill in the form right away because then we'll be busy in our own schedule and we'll forget that. So I'll really appreciate if you can just give us a few minutes of giving us the feedback. Sure. Thank you. Show when it's given in the chat box. Please go through the link.
Does not open the link.
Sajid, you mean you're not open? The link is not opening up?
It is. I'm able to open it.
Even I did. No worries. Even if someone who's not able to open up right now, I'll be personally mailing them the link. You can try it again. Thank you, Asta, for the submission. Mama. Thank you, Alka. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Shivam. Thank you, Vinisha. Thank you, Anushka. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Devrishi, for filling it the same.